Hey everyone, Zach here. Hope you're having a great day. Today I want to go over our overall personal financial strategy that we're using because I think it could be helpful for you. And a lot of people in network marketing are really focused on making money, and we are as well as impacting people and things like that. And if you're here, you're obviously looking to increase your skill so that you can make more money and impact more people, and I think that's amazing. But I want to talk to you about this because what we see a lot of network marketers do is when they do make some money, they end up losing that money. We did a podcast episode not too long ago about this exact topic, and I'll share some of those overviews with you right now and what we're doing with our money so that we can hopefully set ourselves up for a place that we can weather big financial storms and downturns in the market and things like that, and even a collapse of our team. God forbid that ever happens, but if that did, we want to make sure that we're set up in the most strong and stable way. So hopefully this helps you. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is get used to having money. So here's what I mean by that. We all have a natural inclination for a certain amount of money that we're comfortable with. So for instance, I remember a very specific point in my life when I was comfortable with a few $100s, okay? I was comfortable with a few $100 in that account, and if that account ever got below like $300 or $400, I would get really uncomfortable and want to build that account back up till it got to the place I was comfortable. And then if the account ever got too big, I would subconsciously find places to put that money or spend that money until it got down to my level of comfort. Now, most people do this at all different varying levels. As my income increased, I remember that comfort level got to like $1,200. And if it ever got below that, I got really kind of itchy and uncomfortable. And if it got too far above that, I would find places to spend money until it kind of got to my place of comfort. Now, we all kind of do this. If you've ever taken raises in your life, which you probably have, you've noticed that you probably increase your lifestyle to the size of your paycheck. In fact, most people spend more money than they actually make. So that tells me that they're increasing their lifestyle as their income increases. That's why people upgrade their cars, their houses, and all these different things, and essentially can be making multiple six figures yet still be broke. So the first thing that you want to do is realize that you have a level of comfort right now, and you want to think about that right now. What is that place? Is it $100 in your account? Is it $500? Is it 10 grand? Is it 20 grand? Is it 30 grand? What is the number in your checking account or savings account that you are comfortable with? And if it gets below that, it makes you feel really weird and uncomfortable, and you have to build it back up, right? What is that number? So identify that. Now what I want you to do is increase that amount in your own mind for right now. Because the second thing that's going to happen is when you do start making more money, you want to be comfortable, and actually you're going to desire wanting that account to stay the same size. Here's what I mean by that. I remember specifically there was a point in our agency where we took a job on, and that job paid what I was typically making in about a month. It paid for one job, which would have taken me a few days. So I took in like a month, or actually a month and a half worth of income in one day that took me a few days to complete that job. And I took that money, I took out a little bit of money for our needed expenses at the time, and I took the rest of it and I put it into our savings account. And the reason I did that is so that I didn't see it in my checking account, but I put it in an account that I wouldn't see. So I put it over there, and I just got used to it being there. Now that amount, I just wanted that, because that savings account was typically like, at zero, right? At that time, it was really low. So I just wanted it to be at least as big as that check was. And so I put it in there, and I literally did not touch it. And I just got used to seeing it. Every time I'd log into the bank account and look at my checking account, I would see that savings account number there, and I'd be like, okay, that number is there. I want it to stay there. And after a few months of it staying there, I got really used to that number being there, and that was my new comfort zone. If that account dropped below that, which it only has like one time ever since that time, all those years ago, if that account ever drops below that, it makes me really uncomfortable, and I have to get it back. Like I have to, right? Or I feel really weird. Then there was, fast forward a little bit, we had some other big payments that came in, and I took some of those payments and I put portions of them into that account, and I got used to that account getting bigger and bigger. And then so the new number now, I'm like, okay, that number makes me comfortable. If it goes below that, it makes me really, really itchy. Okay, so get used to keeping the money that you're earning. There was a story that I heard about a guy that sold a business for his take was like $100 million. He sold his company, and his take was about $100 million. And he asked his coach, what should I do with this money? And the coach said, don't do anything with it. Don't change your lifestyle. Don't find places to put the money. Don't do anything with the money. Just keep it. Get used to seeing, whatever it was, $97 million in your bank account, and get used to it so that you don't foolishly get rid of it, because your mind isn't used to having that money. So you don't want to foolishly get rid of it because you're not used to it. It makes you uncomfortable having it. You want to get comfortable having it and make sure that you place that you deploy it and put it is actually where you want to put it. Does this make sense? So get used to having it. That's number one. Number two is recognize the exact opposite of what I just said, and the dichotomy of what I just said, that dollar bills inherently are worthless. They're absolutely worthless pieces of paper. On the podcast that we just did, I went over to a lot of backstory on this. Don't need to get into all that stuff right now, but the bottom line is this. The dollar bills that you're carrying in your wallet are completely and utterly worthless pieces of paper backed by one thing, and that is trust. If you gave me $1 and I gave you something in return, the only reason that I'll accept your dollar is because I believe that I can take that dollar to the store and get something of value that I want. And that person at the store will accept my dollar. That's the only reason that I'll take your dollar, and the only reason that you'll accept dollars from your boss is because of the same thing. You believe you can give that dollar to me or to the store and receive something of value in return for your dollar. What is causing that dollar to have value? The trust that the person you're doing business with can exchange it for value. It's backed by trust. No real asset is currently in place for that dollar. So if we rewind way back to the beginning of time, when trade first existed, if I had a wooden table that you wanted, you would try to give me something for that table. Well, dollars didn't exist at the time. Let's say you had a chicken, and I said, well, it's not really worth one chicken, but maybe 5 chickens. You say, well, fantastic, I have 5 chickens. You give me 5 chickens, I give you the table, and we make a trade. Well, what happens if I have something else that you want, and I don't need any more chickens? What do? Well, you have to go trade for other people until you can get something that I want, and then we make a trade. So that's obviously a very archaic system, so we developed something called money. And we made a systematic thing that we could trade amongst each other that was of value. Money was typically represented by precious metals back in the day. They were obviously different shapes and sizes, different weights, different clarities, so we did something called minting, and we printed or made money, coins, out of precious metals, and then non-precious metals for smaller denominations. Then those coins had inherent value because they were rare. Now, coins became tough to lug around. Who wants to carry, 5 pounds of gold on them? No one. So this nice institution opened up called a bank. The bank would then take our gold and give us what's called a receipt or a claim check. The claim check said, this is worth 1 ounce of gold or whatever it was. I could then take that in the marketplace and trade for my wooden table. Here is my claim check. You can take that to the bank if you want and get your gold back, or just keep the claim check and keep it circulating, and we're all good, right? That was the initial start of money, claim checks. Claim checks in today's day and age are called a dollar. Back in the early parts of the United States, dollars were backed by something called gold. Who knew? In the beginning of the 1900s, we instituted something called the Federal Reserve System. It's the biggest load of crap in the history of the world. If you want to look at it, you should. I'll leave links down below teaching you about the Federal Reserve System and what is known as central banking. It started in the early 1900s of the United States. And it essentially led to some things that were really, really bad. In the 1970s, we were in a huge economic decline, and Richard Nixon signed a paper and took the United States off of the gold standard. Here's what that means. It means that your dollar can no longer be taken to a bank or the Federal Reserve in exchange for gold. If you look at dollars pre-1971, they actually say that they can be redeemed at the Federal Reserve for gold. Today, the dollars don't say anything like that. You can literally go look this up. Today, your dollar is backed by nothing. It's a piece of paper printed every single day. Today, there's over $541 million being printed every single day. With that kind of supply increasing, guess what happens to demand? It goes down. This is called a fiat currency system or a fake money system. Every single time a fiat currency system or fake money system has been implemented in the history of the world, there's been hundreds of them, all of their currencies have dropped to zero eventually, meaning they're worth zero. I believe in our lifetime, the dollar will collapse and we will have a new currency in the United States because of this. So that is obviously a problem, but it's actually an opportunity here. So we know that the money is worth nothing, and there's $541 million being printed every single day. There's actually been more money printed in the past 11 years than there was in total circulation for the preceding hundreds of years in the United States. The only reason we're in an economic upswing right now, we're in July of 2019. If we hit November 2019 in a continual upswing, this will be the longest bull run in American history. The only reason we're in a long bull run is because we have printed more money in 11 years than we have in total circulation the preceding multiple hundreds of years. That's why it's an economic upswing. That can only last so long. There can only be so much money in circulation before the whole thing collapses. So that being said, holding on to dollars is totally and utterly worthless. Since the dollar was invented, over 90% of its purchasing power has been completely eroded by inflation, which is caused by printing money, not by what you're actually told it's caused. So that being said, don't hold on to the stupid dollars. Now, that sounds contrary to what I first said, which was get comfortable with having money, right? So you want to get comfortable, keep your money long enough to not be so scared of it that you're trying to get rid of it. But then realize that it's worthless sitting in your bank account. It's getting eroded by erosion every single year. And I believe we're going to have an exponential increase of erosion as the money that we've printed comes back to haunt us. Again, watch those links down below and you can know what I'm talking about. So that being said, what do you do with your money? Well, I'll tell you what we're doing with the money. You can choose to adopt it or not. There's one option, which is the stock market, 401ks, index funds, mutual funds, things like that. We're not doing that. We did that for a while and we're like, you know what? It's kind of linked really closely to a lot of the stuff with the whole monetary system I just talked about. We don't want to go that route. I want to be more control. So we are not doing that anymore. We are, first of all, parking money in what's called a wealth maximization account. You might also know it as a private reserve account. Bottom line is this: it is a type of a life insurance policy that is secured, meaning this: if I put 100 grand into that account, it cannot drop back. It can't go to 99999. It stays at 100, period, case closed. That is way different than a stock market account that can drop, right? So, by the way, if in the past 10 years, if your stock market, all your mutual funds and index funds have been increasing, that's great. All of ours has. It has nothing to do with the performance of your 401k manager. It has everything to do with the performance of the Federal Reserve System pumping in $541 million a day into our system. So, when a decline happens, the stock market will drop, guaranteed. That being said, I shouldn't say guaranteed. I saw that crazy money movie, whatever, you get the point. Point is, we're putting our money to start with in what's called a wealth maximization account, which secures the money. It cannot drop below the initial investment amount. Also, for the past 166 years, it has paid a return between 2 and 8%, most of them being around 5 to 6. So 5 to 6% returns is pretty darn good when you can't even physically, contractually go backwards under your initial principal amount. So that's where things start. Inflation rate's 2.5 to 3%. So if you're gaining 5%, at least you're staying ahead of the inflation curve. Now let's pause really quick and rewind way back to what our parents or grandparents told us to do: save money, right? Well, back when they said that was probably good advice back in the 40s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. We were still on the gold standard. And inflation wasn't that bad. So if you held money in the 20s, it was still worth a decent amount by the 40s. Today, if you hold money in a savings account, you're making 0.1, 0.2%, and you're losing 2.5 to 3% every single year. That is a completely irresponsible and stupid thing to do with your money. Think back to the 60s. How much was gas? A gallon of gas was what, 10 cents, 25 cents max? How much is it today? $4 to $5? If you saved money back then based on your earning power, it would get evaporated based on your current needs today. It's going to be exponentially worse as we move forward. So saving cash in a savings account is stupid. In fact, having just a wealth maximization account is not smart either, because you're saving in dollars. You're returning in dollars. So what do? We have two things after that. The next thing is 5, 10, 15% of our money is going into hard assets such as gold and silver. Right? When I say hard assets, I mean gold and silver. Okay, the actual thing. And no, I don't keep it at the house, so don't try to rob us because it's not here. But hard assets such as gold and silver. Why? Because when things go down, those go up, and when they make a new currency, they usually peg it to gold and silver. That's number one. That's a hedge. That's not an increase. We need cash flow to survive. I'm not going to take a gold bullion out of the vault and say, hey, what's up, Walmart? You take this for groceries. So you need something that can produce cash value, or producing cash in the currency that we're in. That next step for us is purchasing apartment complexes. There's reasons that we don't want to go into single real estate or single houses. There's reasons we don't want to go into office real estate or commercial real estate. We want to go to multifamily apartment complexes. We believe as we go through the next series of years or our future that less people will be buying and more people will be renting. And if you have a lot of places for people to rent, it's the one thing that can't be outsourced. People got to live. So even something like sales, contrary to what a lot of people say, I do believe sales can eventually be eliminated by automation and AI. I think it's going to be a long time, but I think it can happen. Aside from the very top level sales executives, I think the majority of salespeople could be wiped out. Now, I do think network marketing is actually somewhat safe from AI, which is good, but I don't think it's completely invulnerable. I think we'll be fairly safe through our lifetimes, but it might not last forever. The one thing I do think will last for a very long time, without a shadow of a doubt, is real estate. People have to live somewhere. Even if we're all surrogates and we have robots running around for us, our human bodies have to be somewhere, right? So that's why we're choosing real estate. So anyway, hopefully this makes sense. The last thing I'll say is this: as much as it is important to grow your money and protect your money, it is very equally as important, if not more important, to protect yourself, your assets, and make sure everything is separated so that if someone in the sue happy culture tries to hurt you or come after you, everything is separated and they can't get anything. That's a story for another time, but I very much believe in that. So you want to make sure that you are protected as well. Sound good? All right, I'll leave those links down in the description below for the Federal Reserve stuff. My favorite one is by a guy named Mike Maloney. He talks about how the Federal Reserve System came to be and how it works. My second favorite one is by a channel called Cold Fusion, and the guy's voice is incredible, and he also does a really good job of breaking it down. Cool? Sounds good? All right, this was valuable for you. Do me a favor, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and leave a comment down below. Love to hear from you, and we'll talk to you soon.